Okay, this is food storage solutions. I was wondering, have any of you ever packed a bucket? A food grade bucket for long-term storage? Just a couple people? Okay, we're going to learn that today. And first of all, why would we learn food prepping? There can be supply chain issues. We saw that happen during COVID pretty clearly. And I think that was a trial run for worse things to come. So it's kind of eye-opening for us that we needed to kind of do a little preparation. Emergency preparedness. One thought is avoid burdening others. We should be part of the solution and not the problem, if we can, if we have the ability to do that. Economize. You can maximize the budget while reducing potential waste. So if you're not using up your supplies in time, and so you can prevent them from going bad by learning some of these techniques to store what you have properly, make them last longer. So that was the next one. Store your harvest properly and safely. Safely, we want to avoid botulism for sure in some things. So that's an important one. Provide for your family and help others. As we know, there's going to be a lot of people coming out of all kinds of different churches. And there's a lot of people that don't know the prophecies very well, but they've learned enough about Jesus and what truth is, and that they're not going to be prepared. And so if we can help them in any way, that would be great. So some general equipment. You want to get a food grade kind of bucket. You can get 2-gallon or 5-gallon food storage lids. There's two kinds of lids you can get, gamma lids versus regular lid. You need a tool for the regular lid one. This one right here is a gamma lid. It has these notches in there, and they're really easy to work with. You just twist it like that. And they're really great. They cost a little more, but like $4 more. It's worth it. Mylar bags, 5mm thick at least, 7mm if you plan to pour hot water into it. So we have a couple small ones here that we got with zippers. And we have this is part of our car emergency kit, this thing that I'm using here. And we decided, well, how are we going to make our car emergency kit last longer packing some food around? Because the first time we did it, we just put some cup soups in here and let them fend for themselves. But about a year later, then we decided, we better check that out. So we opened one and tried to make it, and it was not very good. So I decided I was going to try these Mylar bags. So I got the size, I got this cup soups, and I opened up the soup and just dumped it in here, and I stuck an oxygen absorber with it, and then you seal it off, and then you iron the end so there's no air getting in there. And the oxygen absorber will take the oxygen out and leave nitrogen behind, and then that'll be good for long time, like years. So with that kind of mix with seasonings in it and so forth, at least 5 years, but it could be longer. And then when you go to want to use it, it's there in your car if you get stuck somewhere, or if you have an EMP ever happens, electronic magnetic pulse. If something like that happens and you can't run your car and you're stuck miles away from home, you got some food with you, plus some water in your car, and maybe something to heat up your water. And then you just rip off the top, open it up, get your water heated up and put it in there, mix it up or mash it around. And usually have maybe some spoons and stuff in your kit as well, but then you can have something to eat. So that's a nice thing. So oxygen absorbers come in different cc amounts. Later on, I'll tell you what a cc is. Heat sealer, you have to have some way to seal it. I have this old iron that I got from Goodwill. This is my dedicated heat sealer. It works great. But you can use a hair straightener iron as well. And just clip the edge off as you go. A brake bleeder is another thing you can use for getting air out of things, reducing oxygen. I think we demonstrated it, was it last year? Or the brake bleeder. It's a handheld thing, and that you have to have a certain kind of attachment on it, and that'll take the oxygen out, and then it'll be good to go for a while. Food saver vacuum sealer. The only downside about those is that it requires power. So when I think of off-grid situations and maybe we won't be able to afford an electrical bill, or we're not allowed to have electricity or can't pay for it, then we got to figure out what we can do by hand. Peat containers can be used as well. This is one example of a peat container. This is one that had some refill hand soap in it. It's a peat container. It's a number 2, but it has the word peat under it, P-E-T-E. So these are really good for short-term storage. You don't want to use these long-term, but in the short term, you can get a funnel and you could fill those things with beans and oxygen absorber in there. You could just have it in your pantry or wherever you want to store these, and then put a date on it, the date you packaged it up, and then write somewhere in an inventory what you have so that you're keeping that up to date. But those are available if you are buying these things. Just save those containers for a rainy day. You can use glass jars. Glass is probably one of the best things to use. It won't leach oxygen. The peat containers will leach oxygen over time, but it's really little at a time. Storage bins, you might want to consider something like that if you're going to package up a lot of these Marler bags, and maybe it's not really like the gallon kind or something, but small ones like we have in here, like our car emergency kit. Like this is one example of just a storage bin that you can keep things in. So we haul this around in our car, and I have some nuts. It's a trail mix thing. The only thing you want to be careful with trail mix is there might be dehydrated fruit in there, so you don't want to have that in there. Or you couldn't use an oxygen absorber anyway, because that would lead to possible botulism. So you can have these in your kit, or you can store them like that, preferably in a cool room. So I'll move on here. Talking about botulism. For long-term storage, use only products that are low in moisture, 10% or less, and low in oil and fat content. Botulism poisoning may result from storing products high in moisture in a low oxygen environment. Do not use oxygen absorber packets in moist products for this reason. Now you can check the moisture and fat content of many foods at this website. So that's a good one if you're not sure. Otherwise, I explored that many times to make some graphs that I'll show you in a minute. But it's a good resource. Food protection. There's threats to the food supply. Those are light, warmth, warm or hot temperature, rodents, insects. So what are the solutions to those? So you want to store your things in a constant, cool, dark place. Every 18 degrees drop in room temperature doubles the shelf life. So that's neat. So the deeper you go, the lower the temperature, the longer it'll last. So the ultimate would be put in your freezer, right? So keeping food in cool room can double shelf life. It will last even longer by storing it in the freezer. The only problem with the freezer is that we might not have power someday, unless you have a really good solar system. You might get by with that, but ultimately you probably don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So don't only have freezer stuff. You should have some canned goods, dehydrated goods, things in buckets, kind of a mix of things. So food grade bucket with a lid protects against rodents. Although we've had a few rodents try to chew up some plastic. Okay. Use a cayenne pepper wash. Put on the lids. Okay. Or we learned something recently about rodents. Apparently they cannot burp. It's interesting. But you can put out a bowl of Coca-Cola for them. Pepsi, something like that. And they'll drink it, and then it'll explode inside them and kill them. So it's kind of gross, but I've heard about it in a couple places, and it is pretty effective. So, short-term storage. Short-term storage includes foods that are greater than 10% moisture and in higher fat content. So that would be nuts are pretty high in fat. So those go into short-term storage. Brown rice, nuts, and seeds have a higher fat content, therefore should not go into long-term storage. Healthy fat will reduce the shelf life because fats will go rancid when stored for long periods. Reducing the level of oxygen in the container with an oxygen absorber can prevent oxidation and slow down rancidity. Storing at cooler temperatures and dark location will also slow down that process. The peat bottles that I mentioned may be used for short-term storage. You may use an oxygen absorber with them, and the plastic bottle will only provide oxygen barrier for a few years. To keep dark, you want to store them in an enclosed box because they're pretty see-through. Dry bulk food items, such as a 25-pound bag of split peas, can be stored in original packaging inside a metal garbage can with secured lid, preferably in a cool room, basement, garage, etc. You can take from this to fill up plastic or glass container that you store in your working pantry in your house. This is kind of a routine we have here on our property. We have some in long-term storage, we have some in the metal garbage cans, and then we have some in the house. So we have this rotation happening. Repackage in 2 or 5 gallon food buckets with Mylar bags if wanting to store up to 5 years. Okay. Freezer food. You can consider food stored in a freezer as part of your short-term storage supply. Prepare for a contingency plan, however, in the event of a long-term power outage. Have a backup power supply, like a generator, solar power, or learn the skills for preserving your freezer supply before it spoils, such as pressure canning vegetables or making jam out of fruit, etc. So if that happens and you know it's going to be a long-term thing, try to do what you can to save what you have. Here's some items that fall under the short-term storage department. You can see there, peanut butter is there. That's high in fat. Canned fruits and vegetables, 3 to 5 years. And if they're acidic tomato types, 1 to 1.5 years. Although I've heard various reports that canned fruit and vegetables can last even longer than 3 to 5 years if they're properly stored. Cooking oil. Coconut is the best one to store. It lasts longer than all the other ones. It can last up to 5 years. And there's pearl barley. Some of these are right on the edge between the 10%. It's like, which one should it go in? But put it on the short-term list. White flour. I saw someone do a comparison of white flour stored for 20 years. They opened the can and tried to bake with it, and then compared it with a brand new sack of flour. So they found that the 5-year was best for how it baked, how it tastes, everything. And it still worked. to bake it later. It was just not as good. So you can see all those other ones there. I won't list them all. Long-term storage. Foods with moisture content of 10% or less and low in oil and fat content. So you can store vitamins. If you have a stock supply, you can store them in one of these containers to protect them. Anything milled is for short-term storage except for oats. You can put oats into long-term storage. That's regular rolled oats. You can put that in long-term storage. For long-term storage of grains, generally store in their whole unmilled grain. So what I was going to package today is hardwood wheat. So that's as unmilled as you can get right there. We're going to use that in there, but then you make sure you have a grain mill or something that when you need to use it, you have something to mill it so you can use it as a flour. So store buckets at least a half-inch off the floor on pallets or boards to promote good circulation and keep them off concrete. Do not stack over 3 buckets high to prevent tipping and breaking if it falls over. Check your buckets periodically for integrity. Store in a cool, dark, dry location to maximize shelf life. Just an example of more long-term storage items and how long they can last. This is from the LDS website. The Church of Latter-day Saints is really big into prepping. It's kind of part of their whole church system. So they actually have pantry locations for the members to come buy bulk items. So of 10-pound cans or number 10 cans, and then these kind of things too, like the 25-pound bag of wheat here. So here's a big list of all the long-term storage items. Various grains, again, storing them in their unmilled state lasts the longest. And some of these I had to research out. I'm still not sure about nutritional yeast, but I think it can be a long-term storage one. Powdered peanut butter will last much longer than whole peanut butter. So that's a good one to store. Dehydrated potatoes is a really good one too, because you can use that in many ways. Here's a note about oxygen absorbers. There are small packets that contain iron powder, made of material that allows oxygen and moisture to enter, but does not let the iron powder leak out. The moisture in the food causes the iron to rust. As it oxidizes, the iron then absorbs oxygen. It's more effective at removing oxygen than vacuum packaging. Air is roughly 21% oxygen and 79% nitrogen. Oxygen absorber packets absorb only the oxygen. The remaining air is mostly nitrogen. So these are some things that oxygen absorbers do. Preserves freshness of food during storage, reduces rancidity and improves the shelf life of polyunsaturated fats and oils, prevents insect infestation by creating an environment where insects cannot survive, slows down the growth of microorganisms, inhibits the growth of molds, mildew, and bacteria, reduces loss of vitamins A, C, and E, and prevents oxidation of dry goods. So how to use oxygen absorbers? A good rule of thumb, 400 to 500 cc's for each 1 gallon Mylar bag. You can also fit 2 1-gallon bags in a 2-gallon bucket, because there is no 1-gallon food bucket that I have found. You can use 200 to 2,500 cc's for 1 5-gallon Mylar bag in a 5-gallon bucket. So we have some oxygen absorbers here. Here's what it comes like when they come in a pack. So these are a bunch of small ones. I've had this one for a while, but it's probably 200 to 300 cc's each one. So if you have something like this, you would, when you first open it, you want to work quickly. Otherwise, everything else is going to start absorbing oxygen right away. So you got to take out what you need, quickly fold it over, put it in a glass jar to preserve the other things. Or have several buckets ready to go, and then you do like 5 at a time, close them off quickly. So ideally, I found getting individually wrapped ones are really nice. These came with 5-gallon Mylar bags that I got. So they're individually wrapped, so I could just do a bucket here and there and not have to line a bunch up in quick hurry. So these are nice if you can find individually wrapped ones. This is what a 5-gallon Mylar bag looks like. So it looks pretty big, but once you open it up and stuff it on there, it'll be sticking up. But that's good because you want to be able to fold it over inside, and then if you reuse it sometime in the future, you'll be cutting off that melted part. Use some, and if you want to repackage it, then you still have some room to go. So each time you go, it'll get shorter and shorter. So that's why they make them so long. They make some of these with zippers, and this one does not have a zipper. The zipper would disappear after the second time you had to cut it open. Here's some other sizes. There's a pint size. This is what we made the soups in. There's quart size, and this is the gallon size one. So you could put maybe 4 gallon size ones in one 5-gallon bucket too, instead of the 5-gallon Mylar bag. So you can do what you like there. The advantage for having these smaller ones, you can only open one at a time. But you also can't get as much in the bucket. So there's a trade-off with each one. CC stands for cubic centimeters, referring to the amount of oxygen absorbing capacity each individual packet has. Some dry goods, such as wheat, rice, rolled oats, or flour, take up more space in the container and leaves a low volume of oxygen to be removed. Pasta, dry beans, and pet food will leave more airspace in the container and will require a more powerful oxygen absorber. So I usually err on the side of putting too much in versus too little in. You don't want to put too little in. So here's a general rule of thumb for oxygen absorber selection. Quick reference guide. So if you're going to do just this one pint big, really all you need would be for 50 cc's versus 100 for the quart. So this is a good information. It took me a while to figure this out when I was first learning. But thankfully over time I kept finding more information to make it more clear. Okay. Packing tips. Consider packing a 5-gallon bucket with several smaller ones like I just mentioned. And it may be easier for you to pack heavy items in a 2-gallon bucket. So if you have something really heavy, I would do the 2-gallon bucket. Let's say salt. You probably don't want to put salt in a 5-gallon bucket. I don't want you to hurt yourselves. Don't hurt your back. So think about that when you're packing. The oxygen absorber reaction begins as soon as the iron in the packet is exposed to oxygen. It's best to package the oxygen absorber within 15 to 30 minutes. Make sure you place unused oxygen absorbers into an airtight glass jar, seal them in a Mylar pouch, or vacuum seal them in a bag immediately. Some oxygen absorbers come individually wrapped, like I just mentioned. It works well to pack your items in batches. Be sure to label and date everything. Keep a record book of your stored food to help you remember and know when to rotate your food out. So I have this is my rough list of items. So my inventory, I just kind of, the first time I packed stuff, I just wrote down everything I packed, the date I packed it, the next date, some different things I packed, and so forth. So then you know the dates. And you say, oh, the first time we packed something was in 2018. And so everything in there are long-term storage things. So we got a ways to go to get to 20 to 30 years for those things. So for long-term storage, using original packaging, cut a slit in the original packaging and insert oxygen absorber any place inside the Mylar bag and place in bucket. If not using original packaging, you may want to cut out the preparation instructions and place inside the bucket, or fold up the original bag and place in the bucket. I've done that with a few things. If there's some instructions on how to prepare it, just cut that out and stuff it along the Mylar bag in the outside of the inside of the bucket. Just stuff it in there somewhere. Do not use oxygen absorbers in sugar, baking soda, baking powder, or salt. These items will become clumpy or rock solid, so don't do that. These items can be stored indefinitely without an oxygen absorber in an airtight container, such as heat-sealed Mylar bag, food bucket, or glass jar. Once packed, the oxygen absorber will usually complete most of its process in about 4 hours. Check the bag after 24 hours to ensure bag is sealed. If you're not sure, gently squeeze the bag and listen and feel for any escaping air. Shelf life of oxygen absorber unopened is about 2 years. Once open, if left in original packaging, seal it back up. Should use them within 6 months. How much do you store? This is always a tough question for me. I always kind of have to ask Patty what she thinks. But pray for guidance and trust God will extend what you have if needed. I think we're going to need a lot of prayer someday, for our gardens to grow properly and that we can harvest things when we need to, that the deer doesn't get it, whatever it is. Pray for protection for our gardens. Rolled oats. So one 10-pound can of regular rolled oats contains about 24.5 cup servings. Storing 16 cans of rolled oats will provide one person with 1 serving of oatmeal each day for breakfast for an entire year. So that just gives you an idea of one food item, how long it could last, how much you're storing. And one 20-pound bucket of rolled oats contains 216 half-cup servings. So store 1.5 buckets of rolled oats for each person to provide 1 serving of oatmeal each day for 1 year. Now think about potato flakes. For an 80-calorie, 1/3 cup of dry potato flakes. Serving size equals 39 servings and 120 calories in the 1.8 pound number 10 can. So just some examples here. Another thing from the LDS store website. Say the quantity for 1 month there is about 25 pounds. If you're storing any of those things, it has a 30-plus year shelf life in long-term storage. And the 5-pound one, dry beans, last for 30-plus years as well. Okay. Another thing about botulism. The serious consequences of exposure to botulism make prevention critical. It might just be a sure death sentence to be exposed to this toxin when good medical care is scarce. So we have to be super careful when we're storing our food. Clean foods well before processing or cooking. Use proper techniques when canning foods at home to ensure all bacteria is destroyed. Sterilize home canned foods by pressure cooking at 250 degrees for 30 minutes. Never eat preserved foods if the container is bulging, leaking, moldy, or if the food smells bad. Consider boiling all home canned vegetables without tasting for 10 minutes. Boil spinach and corn for at least 20 minutes before consuming. Add 1 minute of boiling time for each 1,000 feet above sea level. If it looks spoiled, smells funny, or foams during heating, don't risk it. Throw it away. Vacuum packaging will not prevent botulism in moist products. If you have stored any moist items improperly in a reduced oxygen environment, dispose of them now. Okay. There's some resources here. So buckets and lids, the best price around our area is to get them at Winco. They have a nice supply over by their bulk item department. So they have the 5-gallon containers and the 2-gallon containers. They have both kinds of lids. And they have many bulk items. They have these 25-pound bags of dry goods back there. And anything that they have out in their bulk thing where you scoop it out, anything they have there, you can order the bigger package of it. Just talk to one of the representatives that's working in that department and tell them what you want, and they'll order it. And you come back literally, 5 days later, a couple days later, and pick it up. So that's a nice way to go. We did that with some brown rice pasta. I ordered some bulk items of that. The Mylar bags, I ended up just getting these off of Amazon. So there's various companies that sell these. One brand is Wallaby. I have a couple different ones here. These are some Wallaby ones here. These are the 1 pint ones. You can get a variety pack. This is a different company, but this one has 3 sizes, 5 gallons, 1 gallons, and 1 quart, a variety of each size. So, and they usually come with oxygen absorbers when you buy them like that. Otherwise, Winco has this kind, many of them in one bag.